welcome back to an episode of Honestly Bilal. This is episode number 2. I have a different change of scenery today, and I'm here with a new guest. Today I'm here with Dr. Haris Ahmed. He is a incoming resident at Loma Linda University. Haris and I have an actually pretty interesting story of how we got to know each other. Basically, we kind of met on Twitter, and he actually reached out to me and said, hey, we're having this webinar, a group of residents and I, and we would like to, spread the word to medical students. And at the time, I was getting more active on Twitter. So I kind of found a way to collaborate with him. I actually tagged a bunch of program directors and asked them if they were willing to help. I did not expect the response I got. They were all actually really willing to help out. And it was a great panel that we had. And we had, I think, about 200 people attend from 9 different countries. So it was a really successful webinar. And after that, I was really excited to just get to know him better. We share the same last name. So it's been great to get to know you. And I'm actually really excited to have you as one of my earliest guests. So welcome.
Thank you. And our last name is very common. It's like for the Johnson or Smith or Brown people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. We're not like secretly brothers or cousins or anything.
Right. That's not.
Who knows? Maybe we are related.
Maybe years back, but full disclosure here, there's, I have no disclosures to really tell because I'm a medical student, but we are not related. So that's one I will say.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here with us. If there's, do you want to share anything about how we met or anything like that?
Yeah, man. I've been on Twitter a lot recently. I'm in that purgatory phase between, finishing medical school and starting residency. So there's some downtime there. And I saw, on Twitter, I saw that you had your rotation canceled, and I thought that was unfortunate. I know for me, just coming off of that process, it's very stressful. And the away rotations, especially if you're coming from a school that's not a big name school, is very, important. The away rotations are the way you kind of interact with programs, you meet people, you meet faculty, you get letters of recommendation, you get to understand what ophthalmology is about in an academic setting, and you really get so many opportunities. And without that away rotation or multiple of those rotations, it's very hard to really match because you're not as much of a known commodity. Right. And that's something that we'll discuss today too, is, how can you make yourself a known commodity to match in ophthalmology? Because I think that's the biggest challenge coming from a smaller school is just getting your name out there and getting your name normalized.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in my situation, like you related really well. I feel like me and other students, some of us don't have, ophthalmology departments or home residency programs. So, and I know you were in the similar situation. So we're really looking forward to hearing your perspective about how you did that. And so why don't you start off telling us, where did you grow up? Where are you from? What's your background? Where are you from?
Yeah, man, I'm from Southern California. So my parents, they both immigrated from Pakistan when they were young in their teenage years. And I was born in Orange County in a city called Santa Ana. And then I was raised in Inland Empire, and Inland Empire sounds really cool. And it's pretty cool, but it's not that, cool, but it's San Bernardino and Riverside counties. And it's kind of the forgotten part of Southern California, maybe. And it's not as beautiful as Orange County or LA County. We don't have beaches, but we do have a lot of nice national parks. What's interesting about the Inland Empire is that it is a health professional shortage area, both counties. Okay. And they're very medically underserved. And you tend not to think of that when you think of Southern California. Sometimes people think of Southern California as a monolith, that it's all wealth and things like that. Sure, but there's a lot of, variations, and your life expectancy can differ as much as, 5 to 10 years, depending on what part of California you're in. So, that's kind of, my background where I'm from. I was the first to go to college in my family, first to graduate from college, go to medical school, so on and so forth. So I'm very lucky and happy to do that.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. Sounds like, you're definitely a pure California kid, it seems like. So look, I'm glad that you're back home for your residency too. Sounds great.
Yeah, definitely glad to be back home.
Sure. So, tell us when did you know as a kid or growing up, or when did you find out medicine is what I have to do? I want to do medicine. I want to go to med school.
So, Asian parents all want their kids to be doctors, man. Every Asian parent, I mean, I'm sure your parents are the same way. So the standard.
For me, it was a little different. They just told me work hard. Whatever you do, just work hard. We don't care. But, I know that I have similar friends. I have friends who are exactly. I know people who have that similar, story.
So I had parents that really emphasized, being a doctor from a young age. And I kind of just said, what sounds good. But then I had an experience in my life when I was about 12, and my younger brother, who was 7 years younger than me, he was 5. He picked up a rattlesnake, and I've shared this story in other mediums as well, but he picked up a baby rattlesnake because he thought that was a good idea. He shook it, it bit him, and he was, his life was in danger. And it was a huge deal. We called the paramedics and they came and they flew him in a helicopter to Loma Linda, ironically where I'm going to be doing
Yeah.
residency. And luckily over there was a world-renowned rattlesnake expert, Dr. Bush, and Dr. Sean Bush, and he saved my brother's life. And it was that experience that I had that made me want to pursue medicine because, up until that point as a kid, your parents provide comfort for you. They provide, guidance in every situation. But that was a situation where my parents were even panicked. And it was Dr. Bush who was really, in control. And he took care of the situation, took care of my family, took care of my brother, saved his life. And I knew from that moment that I wanted to do that for someone else. I wanted to give that comfort to other families. I wanted to maybe save someone else's life. And that's really what started it for me.
Wow. Well, it's a crazy story. And it's actually funny how things tie back around, and maybe it's your fate or your destiny that Loma Linda is now where you're at. That's
It's funny because I took my dad to go look at the hospital because it's 20 minutes from where my parents live, where I'm from,
okay.
Loma Linda. And
Sure.
that was the first time he had gone back since my brother had been bitten by
Oh,
rattlesnake.
wow. Okay. Yeah.
And they have like a new building now, so he was like, "Oh wow, this is really nice."
Yeah.
But it's crazy how life can come around like that.
100%. 100%. So you went to medical school and you went to an osteopathic medical school. So when did you figure out ophthalmology is what you wanted to do? Because I know exposure is limited in your types of medical schools. So talk about that with us if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, definitely there's a more of a community emphasis in DO medical schools. If you look at DO medical schools, they tend to be in underserved areas. They tend to recruit students from underserved communities. And then after DOs graduate, they tend to practice in underserved areas as well. So there's a tradition there that really lends itself more to primary care. But even with that history and that emphasis, still 50% of DOs go into specialties. So for me, when I was applying to medical school, a lot of my mentors were DOs. So it just was a logical step for me to apply to both MD and DO schools. And I was able to get into a school in New Mexico, and it worked out well for me. And, ophthalmology specifically, it was an undergrad. I wanted to get some shadowing experience to be able to apply for medical school. And I reached out to a member of my mosque. He was an ophthalmologist, and I asked him, do you have any opportunities to shadow? I need shadowing experience. We all need that for medical school. And he said, yeah, you can come with me to a mission trip. So it was a pretty big response he gave me. I was expecting to just show up, in an outpatient clinic and just kind of hang out. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to go to Guatemala in a couple of months. So you come with me to that. So I went with him and his organization called Humanity First. He's a member of that organization. It's a very big nonprofit international, and I recommend students to look into that, whether you're a pre-med or medical student, because they do trips all over the world.
Sure.
And it was an ophthalmology camp, and I got that experience that changed my life. You get to see the surgeries, the microsurgeries, the technology. You get to see people who couldn't work. These are rural workers in Guatemala. They couldn't work. They couldn't provide for their family anymore because they were blind.
Sure.
And as a result of the surgeries, they were able to see again, work again. Not just work, but enjoy life. Enjoy their, see the intricacies of nature. Look at the trees. Look at the leaves. Look at the color of their grandkids' eyes, so on and so forth.
Right.
So to be able to work and provide for your family. So I thought that was extremely impactful and powerful. And then when I went to New Mexico for medical school, I found, that there are many communities that are not too different from third world countries.
Sure.
And so the point being is that there's a huge need. There's a lot of underserved communities domestically as well as international. And I felt that ophthalmology was really an opportunity for me to alleviate some of those disparities.
Sure. So it seems like global health was kind of what tied you in. It kind of hooked you. Is that right?
Yeah, that got me in. Yeah. And then it was kind of confirmed with, then you go into the rotations, you see the technology, it's very synergistic. Sure. You see the different imaging, and it's so beautiful. I mean, you look at the retina, it's so beautiful. The iris is so beautiful. The slit lamp is so cool. Yeah. And then you see that the surgeries are relatively quick. Mm-hmm. The lifestyle is good. And then these minor things come up as well. But the core of it really is just the profound impact you can have by restoring someone's vision, because it's so important to all of us. We all need to be able to see. So just that's really the main draw for me.
Yeah, no, actually same for me. What got me in was actually really weirdly similar experience. I was in college or in high school, met an ophthalmologist. In college, he took me on a mission trip with him, and I was hooked from there. So I think that's I think the global health aspect is something that really is impactful in ophthalmology, and that people are really interested in breaking that ground and trying to come up with solutions for it. So I think it's really cool that is something that's part of the field that is, not only can you do global health, but you can be really impactful too, and really, hopefully in quick surgeries and stuff, and sustainable care is something that I've talked about in my last episode. And I think hopefully with your interest in policy that we're going to talk about, I'm sure that's something you're interested in too. So going from there, I know you have an MPH, and
Yeah.
instead of kind of knowing, where I know you did your MPH and everything, but how has getting a master's in public health kind of changed your worldview and how you think through that, in terms of when you got into medical school, how did it help you medical school learn, and how did it change the way you think?
That's a great question. So, often what happens is people do their MPH while they're in medical school, and they'll do it after their second year or third year, or a lot of times even afterwards, after they graduate or they're a resident or an attending or in the future. So for me, I did it before, and it really enhanced my perspective. I mean, I got a global perspective of our healthcare system. What are the strengths of the American healthcare system? What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths of some international models? Can they even be applied? And if they can be applied to us, how can they be applied? What lessons can we learn from each other?
Sure.
And then on a practical level, when you see a patient, you're able to kind of put them and place them in this broader sense. You understand that, okay, based on this patient's background, what community they're from, their education level, their culture, these are all things that are going to impact the way they interact with the healthcare system. And it should impact the way I treat them in a positive way. And it should make it more comprehensive to incorporate some of the realities they may face. For example, they may not be able to get transportation to get to the clinic.
Right.
That's something as simple as that, or it can be even far more complex as their built environment in their homes, and do they have access to healthy eating and things like that, and how that contributes to their health status. So that's one area in which it really helped me. And I did my MPH at USC. It was a very comprehensive program. It was 2 years. We had to do a practicum, so I got job experience. I worked for Cedars-Sinai for a year.
Wow.
I was a community health educator. I would go to second grade schools in mid-city Los Angeles and teach the kids about healthy eating and healthy lifestyle. I got to see a lot of disparities there. I traveled to Sacramento as a part of the program, met with state legislators. So that's what really got me into policy and understanding that prospect. I realized then that the physician perspective is not adequately represented in policy discussions. It is represented and it's getting better, but it's still not at the place we need it to be. And I knew that I needed to stay involved in advocacy and policy later on. And then when I got into medical school, it helped me a lot. I was able to, look at research and, biostatistics and understand those things a lot easier, looking at studies and figuring out how this study applies, what's the quality of this study. And, most importantly for me was the policy stuff. I was able to do a lot of policy work in medical school. I met with the current Surgeon General, Dr. Adams.
Oh, wow.
I've met with the previous Surgeon General, Dr. Novello. I've published a policy white paper while in school. I authored 7 resolutions that were passed at the state and national levels to different societies. I've had publications in academic medicine related to medical education. I have stuff coming out in the future. And so I served on COCA, currently on a COCA committee. And for those who don't know who COCA is, that's the accreditation body for DO medical schools. And I can kind of go on in a boring list of stuff I'm able to do, but it opened up a lot of opportunities for me as well.
Right.
And it made me kind of unique in that respect. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and then I'm guessing those experiences, just the range of where you've been in terms of, helping second graders in your local community to getting to talk to Surgeon General. I mean, that's such a span of such a wealth of different, opportunities that has it formed your career interest? And do you know where you want to go with this in the future? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely informed my interest. What I saw was even as a medical student, you can have so much influence and legitimacy. And I think medical students and physicians, they do realize that it's just a matter of time. There's so many responsibilities of, a physician and medical student to have their responsibilities to medicine, learning, applying to patients. Then you have your family responsibilities. So there's not much time. But for me, policy became really important. And I was able to help pass multiple laws in the state of New Mexico related to public health. And for me, what I realized is physicians have a unique voice that's respected. They have an expertise that people are willing to listen to. And it's hard to make that time, but for me, I was able to make that time, and I wanted to stay involved in policy. And now I'm working on some projects related to, medical education and residency spots. How do we increase access to physicians in underserved areas? There are some organizations or some people believe that we should just lift the Medicare cap, which constrains residency funding. And I have a little bit of a more sophisticated approach in that we should have a more targeted GME plan. And I have a publication coming soon that's going to come up that's going to give an outline basically on, in my humble opinion, how we should go about increasing residency spots and access to physician care. And so it's definitely, definitely informed my pursuits. I want to stay involved any way that I can. To end on this question, San Bernardino, Riverside counties, the counties that I'm from, like I said, medically underserved.
Right.
And federally qualified health centers, I'm sure you know what that is. 40% of FQHCs are in Inland Empire for Southern California. So
Wow.
yeah, so these two counties represent almost half of the federally qualified health centers
Sure.
in that entire region. And only 7% of federally qualified health centers have a full-time ophthalmologist, right? So that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so little things like that that I'm hoping to address using the policy experience that I have. And
Got
then
it.
also just as a resident, that's my number one focus moving forward is, how can I use my experiences on the ground with patients to help inform my policy pursuits also, because that's really important is being on the ground and seeing really what's going on instead of a theoretical approach.
Sure. So you're the kind of person, I'm guessing, who likes to think of things from a macro level scale. Is that pretty much
Yeah,
accurate? Yeah.
yeah. You
Right.
kind of start macro and then you bring it down micro, and I think it's all important.
Sure.
For me, it's really important to have a global picture, and then you break it down to practically what does this mean? What can I do now to contribute to the problem? Like the
Right.
global picture in this sense is we have a physician shortage across the country. We have an issue of ophthalmologist shortage also as well. And so now how can we address that issue? How can we get more ophthalmologists in high need areas? How can we get more physicians in high need areas?
Mhm.
Right, that's the problem. And so what can I do? What I
Okay.
can do is work with state and national organizations, create policy, advocate, so on and so forth, write publications, things like that.
Got
So
it. So in terms of, it's kind of ironic. Now my last two guests have MPHs, right? So I don't have an MPH, and I don't foresee myself having, until I graduate, having the opportunity to get one. So what can medical students know? What can we know about, policy and stuff like that, and how to get involved? I think sometimes we're just afraid to think that, maybe we don't have the experience to do that or get introduced to it. So talk about that. How can we, how can the common medical student get involved with policy and think about these things you're talking about?
yeah, so when as I say all these things that I've been involved in and all these projects, just know that this is not the expectation, or that you don't have to do all this stuff. And there's different ways to get involved in policy. It can be intimidating, like you said. You don't have to have an MPH. You don't have to have like a formal training and have all these experiences. Really, the way you can start is locally.
Mhm.
At medical, at MD or DO schools, wherever you're at, there's student organizations such as SOMA, the American Medical Association Medical Student Section, or American Medical Student Association, right?
Right,
So
right.
these three student organizations are the kind of the most premier organizations that if you want to get involved in advocacy, you
Uh-huh.
join them locally. And then
Got
there's your state association. If you're in California or you're in where I was in New Mexico, these state associations, they're very excited about getting students involved. So you
Sure.
go to their website, you call them, you email them, you let them know that I'm so-and-so. I'm a medical student this year at this medical school in the state. I would like to get involved. Oftentimes, state associations have a day where they visit the Capitol, and
Uh-huh.
you can go and go to their, yeah, you can do that. Or even national organizations too, if you want to get involved, that would be the next step. But getting involved locally is really important. Number two is just being informed and reading, health policy journals
Mhm.
and keeping a tab on what's going on, and that's going to be really important for you to get informed. But don't get intimidated or think you have to do all this stuff. Start locally with local student organizations. That's the first step.
Awesome, awesome. And like you said, reading is a huge part of it. And I see that, when I watch, when I go through my Twitter feed, I see that you seem to always have a very strong voice about policy and stuff like that. So do you find that social media is a great avenue for learning about this stuff too?
There's a lot of potential in social media with everything. There's potential and there's harm. The potential is that you can have a rapid dissemination of information.
Right.
The harm is it could be inaccurate. There's not that peer review process.
Sure, sure.
There's not that formality. So keep that in mind.
Right.
So when you look at what someone is tweeting about policy, uh, you know, examine it for yourself. Do cross-examine it, research the topic. For
Right.
example, I talk a lot about teaching health center graduate medical education, and so Google that, look that up, see what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
saying something accurate? But I think social media has a lot of potential. I often share links. I often share, my opinions about different policy matters, and I'm able to also hear about other people's opinions,
Yeah.
and that's another key point is when you get involved in policy, don't be so set in stone
Right.
about your beliefs. Be flexible and listen to the different viewpoints. It'll enhance your own perspective.
Sure, sure. So the best, so kind of like, how we're trained in medical school to have this scientific sort of process, just look at things
Mhm.
objectively. So you recommend the same approach essentially, right?
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. So, going from there, it seems like, you seem like you know what you want to do with your life. You have like a plan that you're executing and you're trying to go forward and be a leader in your community, be a leader at a national level. So, who are your heroes and inspiration? Who's inspired you to be who you are today and get you where you are?
Yeah, it's a great question. My inspiration and heroes, my parents, of course.
Yeah.
Outside of my parents, Muhammad Ali,
Yes.
Kobe Bryant,
Right with you there. Yeah. Yeah.
and Nipsey Hussle, Tupac. These people are my heroes for multiple reasons. The reason, the common thread of all these individuals, it's funny, my Pakistani mom and Nipsey Hussle, what do they have in common?
Right.
Or my dad and Kobe, but they do.
Sure.
And the common thread is that they all have a very strong work ethic.
Right.
And all these individuals, for me, what I learned from them is to have a very, very strong work ethic, to not make excuses, to never take kind of a victim's mentality, take ownership of your situation, and be accountable for yourself. And also enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Don't just, Kobe always said that. Enjoy the process. Muhammad Ali always emphasized in practice, how it was hard and difficult, but that's where you really get better. And don't get so caught up in the end goal that you ignore the present.
Yeah.
Don't get so excited about, oh, I want to get into medical school, I want to become an ophthalmologist, and then I'll be happier, and then I'll relax. No,
Right.
because when you get there, there's going to be a new goal, and then you're going to want to do that, and you're going to get on this rat race. So those people, have inspired me to always work hard and not be lazy.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful to all of them.
That's awesome. And I'm from the Louisville, Kentucky area, and so Muhammad Ali he's a legend here. So I do recommend for anybody who's out there who has not seen Ali, the movie starred by Will Smith playing Muhammad Ali. Fantastic movie. I can't believe it took this long for me to watch it, but I just watched it during the whole quarantine period, and it was a fantastic movie. Great acting. Also, the HBO documentary, What's My Name, with Muhammad Ali going through all his fights. Fantastic, made. It's well made. So plug for that for anybody who's not seen that content. So yeah, so that's awesome. And I really like your point about work ethic. And I'm in the stage right now where I'm below you in terms of transitioning to hopefully be going through applications and applying for ophthalmology. And I definitely sometimes feel like I'm like way too focused and tunnel vision on this goal to where I'm reaching and doing projects and focused on this one thing. But like you said, it's always going to continue, and we have to keep in sight, I feel like, what we're trying to accomplish and what's going to make us happy, and in terms of keeping priorities and working hard but enjoying the process. So I like that you touched on that.
You're going to look back and you're going to enjoy this time, man. You're never going to be, a rising fourth year again. You're never going to do these apps again.
Right.
This is stuff you should take in, because when you get there, you look back and you're like, that was a nice time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is stressful. It's easy for me to say, but just try it.
No, absolutely. I definitely can see the point where you're making, where it's fun to work hard and then you can enjoy the process too, I think. So
exactly. Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm an applicant. I know other applicants are hopefully watching this video and this series of, these meetings that we're having and recording. So what is your singular best advice? I heard you on the webinar. I don't know if everybody watched that webinar, matching amidst COVID-19 in ophthalmology, but kind of touch on the things that you would recommend for people who are applying in ophthalmology this year with the virtual interview process and in terms of all that stuff, what you can see being an advantage for us and what you kind of take away, and what you took away from your process too, just a year ago.
Yeah. For me, we touched upon this earlier, coming from a smaller school, kind of in a less known area. If my school was in southern New Mexico in Las Cruces, and we had no ophthalmology department. And then if you zoom out a little bit, we had, I think, 1 or 2 ophthalmology practices in the city itself in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So not many opportunities. Then you look at the entire state of New Mexico, there was no ophthalmology residency programs. So I had to be very resourceful to get, networking. And social media was a key part of that. I was on Instagram and Twitter, and I utilized that a lot. I followed a lot of Instagram ophthalmologists. And I would DM them and in a sincere way, not to just, DM them for no reason, but there was an ophthalmologist, Dr. Melendez, in New Mexico, and we had that in common. And he was going to a conference that I was going to as well. So I let him know that, I was going to be there. And when I was at the conference, I introduced myself to him and said, I would love to have a shadowing opportunity with you. And he was very graceful and said, of course, come on up. And I had to just take the offer, and I ran with it. I was in my OBGYN rotation, and I made an excuse to leave early, and I drove, 4.5 hours, however long it was, to get to his clinic. And I went there for, 8 hours, and then I drove right back. And the point of that story is, you got to be kind of relentless and have this type of work ethic and mentality towards this goal. because that's what it's going to take, especially if you come from a smaller school. I also went to grand rounds locally at the nearest department I could. For me, that was University of Arizona in Tucson. So
Okay.
I would frequent their grand rounds. Again, I would have to wake up early and get to their grand rounds and introduce myself to them.
Sure.
And I was able to get research from that, from going there, and I was able to get a lot of recommendation out of that as well. So again, the principles of being relentless, introducing yourself, being sincere,
Mhm.
attending conferences whenever and wherever you can. And then for me, having that MPH background, I was fortunate that I was able to create some of my own research projects and submit that related to policy and public health in ophthalmology. And through all this stuff, I made myself a known commodity by attending conferences, by being active on social media, by shadowing local ophthalmologists wherever they were, even if local meant 4 hours. I
Mhm.
made myself a more of a known commodity.
Sure.
And for DO students, there's a single accreditation process now, and MDs and DOs now all train under the ACGME. This is something that's new, and
Right.
as a result of that, we all have more opportunities. There are more programs to apply to, and that's something that I think DOs should really take advantage of. And at the end of the day, I think it becomes about unique characteristics. How can you make yourself a unique applicant? Everyone's going to have outstanding scores. Everyone's going to have a great story with amazing research. What can you do to make yourself unique? For me, it was my policy work. And I think that really stood out during my application and my interview, process. It was brought up in every interview. People talk to me about my policy work. So
Yeah.
that was how I made myself unique. Also, randomly, I was in a movie in my first year of medical school.
Oh, no
As an
way.
extra. Yeah, I was an extra. So like that was like a weird, funny thing that I did, and for fun,
Okay.
and that was brought up by everyone. So what
Huh.
are unique things for you? For each person, those are going to be different. For some people, they may have like a biomedical background or engineering background, or for you, it's medical education and through social media,
Mhm.
whatever that is. Come up with a couple of unique things about you that'll make you distinct and memorable. And those are, for me, it was policy and that movie that I was in.
Yeah. Wait. So what's this movie called? We need to know. What is it called?
I've never so it's called 12. I never seen the movie. I didn't see the movie,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it's called 12 Strong with
Okay.
Chris Hemsworth.
Wow.
So we applied as a joke. The story behind that is they do a lot of movies in New Mexico. They shoot a lot of these films. You'd be surprised.
Okay.
And they had a casting call, and one of my friends thought it would be. They had a casting call for Taliban, and so my friend thought it would be hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
To send me and my roommates, who were all, three brown guys, to send us this Taliban role. And we thought it was hilarious too. So we applied. We just put our pictures in an email, and they responded, and they were so excited. They were like, "Oh, we want you for 2 months. We want you to come down here for 3 months." We're like, we're in medical school. We can't come for 2 to 3 months. Maybe we can come for a day. And they said, "Oh no, we can't do that." So we had a back and forth basically over, us.
No way.
Yeah. And then eventually they agreed that, okay, you guys can come for a day. And interestingly, the reason why we went for a day is because we were going to the state capitol to advocate.
Uh-huh.
And on the way back, their shooting location was like en route to our school. So we were like, yeah, we can do that. So we went there, and they treated us really well because they knew we were medical students. So we got to have dinner with Chris Hemsworth, the director and producer.
That's
We had
crazy.
pictures with them and stuff. Yeah, it was like a huge circus. And I never saw the movie. And we also refused to play Taliban. We said, we're not going to do that. We're just
There you go. Okay. That's what I like to hear. Right.
Yeah. And so then there's an article somewhere. If you look up horse soldiers and my name or something, you'll see on there's like news. Someone, wrote a couple articles about it because it's just a funny situation. But, stuff like that, it doesn't have to be like you were a Nobel laureate.
Right.
And
Right.
you did all this crazy. It could be something funny like that to make you memorable. So they remember, oh, that's that guy who was
Yeah.
in the movie.
That's crazy. Wow. You and Chris Hemsworth just hanging out, huh?
Dude, I mean, it was a crazy experience. Let me tell you something. I would never want to be in that field. That field is horrific. Those guys work really, really hard. Yeah, they work really hard. One thing that I missed though is they have like this food truck where you can summon
Yeah, I've
any
heard.
dish,
Yeah.
and they can create any dish like Chinese. Omelets.
Right.
Whatever the heck you want, man. They can somehow create it, and I missed that part of it.
That budget, the budgets are like millions of dollars for some of these movies. So it's like, I feel like the catering is like, gotta be on point. If you're Chris Hemsworth, you're going to have to eat. You got to get those muscles up.
We were paid $200, but
You were paid?
You were paid, dude. Yeah, we
Come
got
on.
paid. We had
Awesome.
to pay taxes on that, I think.
That's cool.
But it was, and then after that, we actually got picked for another ABC documentary. I'm telling you, I'm minimizing this, man. This thing.
Man, you really are. Let it out. Let it out.
And then so we just didn't care. Like because we really didn't care. Like we were not trying to be, you know what I mean? I'm from LA. I'm not trying to be in movies and stuff. So
Sure.
I don't care, you know. So this is just a funny joke turned into something crazy. And
Yeah.
so we got this role in an ABC documentary, but we just never went. They
Okay.
accepted us. We were like, oh, we kind of fell through. We just never pursued it afterwards. But it was a huge circus. I mean, we would go to local restaurants in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and people would recognize us and stuff.
No way. It's
and
not.
like they put us on the front page of the paper, like as if like we had done something incredible. And like a local artist drew a painting of us, and the painting
What
was
in the
in medical
world?
school.
This
And the
is the
painting is
craziest
in my
thing.
medical school. Yeah, I mean this story has so many. I can just keep going.
So
man.
nuts.
Yeah, and so like it's just a ridiculous scenario. And so I would share this in interviews, and we would just be like what the hell?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's funny because we're at 1 second we're talking about sir, you met the Surgeon General and it's policy, you're telling me how you were in a movie in New Mexico, and oh man, that's crazy. But people love that, and that's why the show is honestly Bilal, and we want to make it relatable. And I can't relate to that. I would love to, but I think it's really cool that you're just open about it and tell us about it.
And the thing is, like, so that's an important point you bring up. So don't think that you have to meet the Surgeon General and work in public and be in a movie to match ophthalmology. It can be something. I have a lot of friends who came from smaller medical schools because we kind of banded together during the application cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of them, majority of them, honestly, all of them matched now I think of it. And they all matched, and none of, they didn't all have crazy stories. I mean, they just had something unique to identify them that I came from this background, or, I have an engineering background, or I'm really passionate about this or that. So it doesn't have to be something so grand, but something unique is going to help you for sure.
Sure. So that's
another thing. Sorry, one more thing. Sorry to cut you off.
Ahead,
but the webinar you mentioned, we're going to do another webinar soon, hopefully, to help get into some of the nitty gritty about personal statements and formatting.
Oh, wow, yeah.
San Francisco Match is an open text, so you can format it however you want. You can bold and italicize stuff and highlight stuff, and it may seem like it's not a big deal, but that stuff matters. And the way you order stuff and the way you prioritize things makes a difference. Because like if you apply to ERAS or NRMP, everything's kind of cookie cutter. You input your information and then they box it up for you and they format it. So you have an opportunity to really format things in an SF Match. So we're going to get into some of that stuff, and we're going to do that soon, hopefully in the next few weeks.
Great. Yeah, and I'm going to make sure to spread the word about that so people know once again. And for anybody who's out there, if you have Instagram, today I saw an awesome post by @OphthoBros. They actually went through and talked about how they organized how to write in the SF Match application. So it's really useful for people out there. It was talking about how to format and making bullet points. So if there's anybody out there who's going to be applying this upcoming fall like me, definitely check it out. It was really great, great post. So Hars, it's been absolute pleasure. Once again, it was great to finally meet you. We've actually never met like this, so this is a great great opportunity, and you're welcome to come back anytime. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course, man. I'm glad. I'm very thankful that you're doing this for students. I hope they gain something from it between all the stuff we talked about.
Yeah, a lot.
We went everywhere. Yeah, we went everywhere, and I'm glad to help in any way that I can in the future as well.
Well, you've been a great resource for me, and I am hopefully the other students will also see that you can help them too. So I really want to thank you one more time, and thank you everybody for watching this video. You can follow me at Honestly Bilal on Instagram and also on Twitter at Bilal_1712. I'm gonna be providing you more videos, and I'm actually gonna be starting my first medical student interview tomorrow. So Arjun Watain is gonna be on here. He's for the medical student at University of Miami. So looking forward to having him on, and we'll see you then. Thanks for joining.